Hello, Facebook land. Good morning. I am happy to be on here this morning to get right to it with some interesting talk this morning with my friend from England. We will be talking about the difference in perceptions between the United States and England about sexuality and sexual shame and sexless relationships and why does that happen, what does that mean, and what can we do about it. So Vivien is from England, and you will love listening to her accent, and hopefully her friends in England are loving listening to my American accent. I actually dated someone from England for about a year and a half, and I have a long list of words that we pronounce differently and a long list of words that we use differently. Like a funny one is fanny means vagina in England, and for us we say fanny pack, and so it's funny for them because we're saying vagina pack. So anyway, it's interesting. Vivien, I see that you're on. I've sent you an invitation and it will be in your notifications to accept that invitation, or you can click on your screen and at the bottom you can request to be added to the video. So I'm going to wait a second and see if that happens with you, or if I get a request from you. Otherwise I'll send you another one. So what are the funny words? I mean, we know tomato, tomato, but there are some other ones on my list. Maybe I can get it from Vivien now. But I need water. What did I do to myself? Oh, my water's right over there, so I'm going to grab it real quick. Here it is. Like laboratory instead of laboratory. Oh man, there's a long list. I can't get to it because it would be on a different screen, but it's super fun. Okay, Vivien, let me try adding you one more time. I need to make sure that you are on the video before it will let me. I'm sending an invite. Whoopsie. What's another one? Gina, I see you on here. Are you aware of words other than the ones we know, like tomato, tomato, that they pronounce differently in England? Oh, revelatory. I was like, what? What else? Revelatory. I think they say revelatory. However, I think just like in the United States, we pronounce things differently depending on which area we're in. And I think there's some of that in England or in Britain as well, because I've had some people look at me awkwardly and say, that's not how I say it. So it's fun. So not only do we pronounce things differently, we have some similar and some different beliefs around sex, sexuality, and relationships. And so Vivien, I'm going to hit bring you on again. Can't bring Vivien on camera. I don't know why. Vivien, log out of your Facebook, like close the app completely, and then come back onto this video and we'll see what happens. Excuse me. So you may have seen the statistic that I put up the other day. It is from a study of thousands of people, and it was a study about loneliness. And it said, I shared one part of the statistic, which was that loneliness has the effect on your mortality rate, the same effect on your mortality rate as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It also included obesity and what was the other thing? same effect as obesity, and what else? I don't remember. But I just thought, holy crap.
Hey,
Vivien?
do you hear me clearly?
Yeah, it's really actually. Turn the volume down. I'm gonna echo across the ocean.
How's that?
It's probably a little bit too loud. Yeah.
Testing, testing.
Your volume's okay. It's just me echoing back into the microphone. So, do you have headphones?
I do.
Okay.
A moment.
Okay. So I'm going to echo until he gets this. Okay. Let's have a moment of silence. Hi, Shanita. Hi, Daniel. Gina. David. Watching. Isaac. We're fixing the sound situation right now, so stand by.
Here we go.
Awesome. Oh, maybe I'm there. Yay! Awesome.
There
Cool.
you go. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. I'm glad you're here. I was just talking about the statistic on loneliness that I had posted yesterday, and it's always wonderful to be in good company with another. So
yes.
I can't tell from my if it's a little scoot to the right or the left that's going to put you in the screen. You're a little bit cut off on the. There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Centered. Awesome. So while you catch your breath, thank you so much for grabbing those headphones. I will complete my thoughts. So the statistic I shared that loneliness has the same effect on your mortality rate as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it also included obesity, the same effect as obesity, and a couple of other things. And I don't remember what they were. But I was just astounded that like loneliness mostly involuntarily is having the same effect on a person as choosing to smoke 15 cigarettes a day. It's amazing. So
I think it's the all-time most likely to shorten your life. In the lists of all the things that you can do, drinking, way too much partying, all kinds of stuff, eating badly, never getting off a sofa, spend too much time on your own, you're done.
Yeah.
Because it robs you of yourself.
We really need connection to share ourselves with another and to receive another to ourselves. So, hello, Vivien Burke.
Hi. Hello, Monica Jayne. This is amazing. Such a cheerful subject.
I would love for you to introduce yourself, and I can do the same since your audience will be listening as well. So, Vivien, tell me just very short, succinct, let us know who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about.
Okay, so I am Vivien Burke from Partnership Matters, and I help couples have healthy, happy thriving sex lives and relationships. And the thing that I am very passionate about is lies, lies, and misdirects. There's a lot of really bad information out there about all kinds of things. And I can get pretty upset about that. So let me give you an example. Almond milk. It's very PG, almond milk. If you want to have almond milk because you want to be healthy, you walk down the shelves and you see almond milk. But you can't buy that because it's not almond milk. That's almond milk with sugar. If you want almond milk, you have to buy almond milk unsweetened. You see, it's a misdirect. Why can't I just buy almond milk or sweetened almond milk? It's a misdirect. And unfortunately, throughout sexuality, it happens all the time. Information that we get, like, I'm 60, apparently I'm meant to have hung up my sex clogs by now and settled into some knitting and proper craftware and all kinds of things like that, but it's a misdirect. Menopause, sex is over, you're not meant to do anything after that. So once you've had kids, you don't have to have sex anymore. When you are married after 2 years, it's quite normal for sex to disappear. Really? How helpful is this information? If at any point you want to raise your hand and just go, okay, Viv, you can stop now, I will not be offended.
Well, I was about to say, we will be getting into these conceptions around sex and around shame, and kind of juxtapose the similarities and differences between the United States and England. And we might find we have more in common than we know. So I'm curious for that part of the discussion. For your viewers and followers, my name's Monica Jayne. I'm a trailblazer of unabashed badassery, and I work with people who feel inhibited or prohibited in their self-expression, whether that's through their speech, through what they wear, through how they act or behave, or through their sexuality in their lives. I help them to regain confidence, to feel felt, heard, and understood, and that they belong in this world so that they can express themselves fully, unashamed, completely and totally unabashed. So
it gives me chills.
Yeah.
Gives me chills.
Yeah. Well, actually, yesterday I gave a talk called Demystifying and Destigmatizing Sex and Intimacy at a wellness fair. And almost every attendee afterward came up to me and had some expression about, gosh, you're so comfortable in your own skin. Like, I could just tell you could just be who you are. And a woman who's known me for a while, she's like, you just are so fully yourself. Like, look at how you're dressed. Look at your sunglasses. Look at your shoes. Look at the way you present yourself, the way you just speak unabashedly. And so communication is my number one, the number one thing that I support people in, is to regain your fucking birthright to say and express and share of yourself fully, thus getting rid of loneliness and stopping that involuntary smoking of 15 cigarettes a day.
I think so, if we come back just a little bit to the loneliness part, there's maybe some illusion that being alone means there's nobody else in your life. But I'm afraid to say, I think you can be incredibly lonely and live with someone.
That's the loneliest lonely. I always say, like, it's worse. It's always felt worse for me when I am actually with a partner or in college with roommates and I felt alone.
Yeah.
It's easier and less worse for me to feel lonely when I'm actually not around others. That's a really good distinction to make.
Yes.
So how about sex and shame? Perceptions of the United States and perceptions of, shall we say Britain? Shall we say England? I know that, all of them mean something different.
Great Britain.
What do you want?
In Britain, let's talk about in Britain. I think that's perfectly fair.
Okay, cool. Because I do love the distinctions. Like, I love Wales. It's so gorgeous there. and I've been around in England here and there, so we'll include Britain conversation. So how do you see that clients you work with are experiencing shame around their sexuality?
I think the biggest tragedy is having no ability to speak about sex at all, that they are so convinced that it is wrong, bad, that it has to be shut out of their lives. One, because of because I think of how they define it, that sex is penis and vagina, and that obviously you can't talk about that. So I have a bit of a theory that when people are being brought up, they don't get the keys to adulthood. As a parent, of which I am not, it's kind of important to make sure that, you know, it would be really cool not to have your children get pregnant in school. But don't get pregnant. Don't bring shame on the family. It's a whole bunch of don'ts. Don't get sick. And it's tragic to me that by the time you're 18, I wonder how many people have actually heard the word orgasm, or that pleasure is part of the right to be an adult. It's one of the bonuses of being an adult. You get to go out, you get to drive a car, you get to come home late, and you get to have epic sex. Nobody told me that. So wouldn't it be nice if someone said that that's okay now, that you move from rules and guidelines and boundaries that are there out of goodwill to keep you safe, but by the time you're 50, if you're still running those rules, then you're not supposed to be talking about pleasure, and you can't say I want to be touched, or I would prefer to do this, or I've got this crazy idea that we do something with rubber gloves and custard. You know, it's like so can we be wild? Now, I've not been in every bedroom in the UK, so we can't say everybody is miserable. But I think a lot of people are incredibly misinformed. So shame tags into misinformation, because if you look for it, that could be shameful. If you even just think about looking something up, typing into Google, heaven forbid you have a search history and you don't know how to go incognito. So
I loved the very beginning there where you talked about the rite of passage into adulthood. Coincidentally, that is one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I receive from my clients in their 30s and 40s, and even a woman who is 72. Unbeknownst to each other, they've all said in their own words, that doing this work of embracing their eroticism and getting to know their turn on and their arousal and their bodies has been the rite of passage into adulthood that they never received. They feel more a man or more a woman or more a person than they have ever felt themselves to be. And it's interesting that we don't teach that eros, our eroticism, is the essence of who we are. We talk about nutritional health. We talk about physical health. We talk about spiritual health. We talk about psychological and emotional health. And our sex ed health education in the United States has mainly been based around abstinence. Abstinence. Forever. And there are schools that are starting to teach consent. They're starting to teach boundaries. But for the most part, the adults walking on this this area of this continent of this planet are exactly as you described. And it is an epidemic. And I just had an inspiration. What if we had Amy on here from France? What
Oh,
would she
sure.
tell us of,
Yes, exactly.
you know, how things are there?
Well,
We need that
I think the French pride themselves in being a sexual nature. So I would say that they are different. I think potentially there's some religious intervention there. But I spoke to a Frenchman the other day who's very proudly a sexual being. Thrilled, strutting his stuff. It's like, I am from France and I am very sexual, and I'm going, oh, how lovely.
How lovely.
Yeah, good for him.
Oh
Thank God. It's so wonderful to hear somebody own their sexuality.
Tell me more about rubber gloves and custard.
Well, one of the things that's quite fascinating in the UK is in London, there are approximately 8.8 million people, of which 500,000 are on FetLife, which is FetLife is an app specifically designed for people who have a preference for fetish and wanting to have the turn on of sex with rubber gloves and custard, or being bathed in custard, which I read in a novel once and it's always tickled my humor. It's a place where everybody goes. I want to go. So I was invited to a party the other day. I love my life these days because I go out exploring things and I go out to learn and I want to be wise. And somebody said, we're having a party in the forest soon. And I go, oh, how lovely. And she said, I see you're wearing long boots and you look horsey. I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm like a 55-year horseman kind of thing. And I thought she was going to talk about something equestrian. Oh, no. So if I would like to come as a femdom, we can chase men round the woods who will be naked, who want to be spanked. And I remember thinking, I want to go. I really want to go, because that sounds like tremendously good fun. And they were such a good laugh, these women. Tremendously good fun. Very big on their container of safety. You know, you have to come in, have to log on, have to be part of their group and everything. But, you know, somebody wants to go and wear very high-heeled boots in a forest and spank naked men. FetLife would be the place to find that.
I love it. I've been on FetLife for like 5 years, and it definitely is a playground for people who want to be like woken up, smacked in the face every time you log on. The ads can just be like, what is that contraption?
Yeah.
And there's all parties of all kinds and gatherings of all
absolutely.
kinds. So FetLife, it's FetLife.com.
Yeah, and there's an entry point to meeting people who enjoy doing the things that you might like to try, and that begins with a thing called a munch, which is where everybody goes in their normal clothes, straight from work. You're going to have a glass of wine, you have a chat, and you go, yep, I'm very, very, very keen to be suspended and caressed with feathers. And somebody goes, yep, that's me. I can do that. We have a party for that over here. We meet on a Tuesday, you know.
And what's so interesting is, as you said, like people come in their normal clothes straight from work, and you would have no clue these people walking around, and maybe you're one of them, want to do these crazy weird things. And so FetLife is one way that I recovered from shaming my sexuality and shaming my eroticism, because I thought there was something wrong with me, because that's what I was taught. There's something wrong with me if I want something outside of penis and vagina.
Yes.
Because that's all sex is.
Yeah.
That's all sex is.
And only on Saturdays. Only on Saturdays. So,
oh my gosh.
So the kink is obviously just one part. And I think a large part, not all, a large part of the kink community is enjoying being a more fully expressed self. They've decided what they like. They've decided to go somewhere and experience that. And amen to that. I do have concerns for people who don't know how to set boundaries, because when you haven't got the keys to adulthood and you haven't understood boundaries and you haven't fully understood safety, and I can be concerned for some people who party alone and things like that. The kink event I went to the other night was particularly about how to manage going to an event. Check out the entire room, make sure you know the people who are working and the people who are playing. Do you know where the exits are? How many people are going to be at the event? Do you know where the bar is? Is there anybody you could connect with to say, if you see me stagger out of here looking like I've had too much to drink, heading out of the door, there's absolutely no way in this world I'm leaving it with anybody. My pleasure would be within this building. If you see me leaving, I'm not leaving willingly. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this all sounds very scary. We, in our own experience within Erotic Freedom Club and within Posh, the passion is that we're a bit spoilt with the container of safety to beat the band of containers of safety. So I was very concerned because I felt that a lot of the talk was very much around taking care of others. And I think there needs to be a very consistent balance between taking care and responsibility for yourself and then others. Because if somebody looks like they're in trouble, the thing with a BDSM event or a kink event is somebody may choose to be humiliated. And if you see humiliation and you don't know that it's a scene, then you may need to just try and attract someone a session and go, is that okay? Is that okay? Because it doesn't look okay to me. They don't look happy. They don't look like they're in their happy place. So there's a lot to learn about going and being part of a kink environment, but there's a lot of places where people can fully express themselves, and I think that is tremendous.
Yeah, so why do you think it is? I mean, we've talked about societal conditioning. So is there anything to say about why do we repress ourselves? Why do we shame ourselves into not expressing fully?
Oh, for sure, because it's how we're raised. Harris, there's lots and lots of don'ts. And early don'ts for me were in boarding school. I was 8 years old. Don't run down the corridors. I used to love a little jog down the passageways. Stop running down the corridors, Vivien. Go to the hall and collect an order mark. It was quite exciting.
You're speaking a foreign language to us with boarding school passageway and order mark.
So so boarding school, I was sent to a school where I stayed away from home. So we call that a boarding school, where I would live for the whole of the term and then go home for holidays. And an order mark was like the opposite of a gold star. I would get a black mark, which was I was caught running down the corridors.
Did you get lots of those, Vivien?
Not as many as you would have thought. I'd actually, going back, I'd like to have got way more, but I definitely got enough. I definitely got enough throughout my life to recognize that sometimes I was told things that I should not do. I wasn't supposed to like boys. I was supposed to be a good girl and not get into any of that sort of stuff. And I thought boys were great. And I really liked them.
We're told all of this. And then back to your original point, all of a sudden when we're 18, we're just supposed to know that we can take all of those city belts off and be who we are without any stewarding into this. So how does this translate to sexless marriages and relationships? So we're liberated, we're over 18. I wanted to draw the comparison. In the United States, in most states, you can start driving when you're 16, and in England, it's 18, right?
17. One more
17.
Year. 17
and
to
that's
drive.
by yourself.
Yes.
That's by yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm. So here, most states it's 16. Some you can get an exception. In Wyoming, where I grew up, you could get an exception when I was growing up for as early as 13 years old, because it was so rural that we needed to become that part of adulthood earlier on,
Mm.
because we needed to get places. But I want to bring this full circle. Like, how do you see that all of this childhood conditioning translates into crazy animal passionate sex at the beginning of relationships, and then
Well, I have theories. As I say, I've not been in every bedroom in the United Kingdom. So I have a theory that in the early days when we go out with somebody new, our girlfriends were around. So I wasn't a Facebook dater. We went to pubs or public houses for drinks and met people actually face to face. And we had cliques and groups of friends. And you got to actually know them, and they were great. Part of the party was out being with your girlfriends, and someone's going, "Are you are you are you seeing him? Are you thinking about seeing him? I bet you are, slut. I bet you're going to go and have sex with him, aren't you? You will tell us about it tomorrow." So there was a lot of real kind of naughty going on around your friends. You'd have a drink, get dressed to go out, and you'd all be getting ready together, and the music would be on and everything. We were in turn on. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd be in turn on before I even left the building.
mm-hmm.
And then you'd go to a party or you'd go out and it would be fun. Hell yes, great fun. Enormous amounts of fun. Then when you get together with somebody, then you're just in the house together. Where does that turn on come from? I'm supposed to do so. My own would be, my thought of how I should be loved would be around duty, that I would take lots of care of my partner, washing, ironing, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the house, and that I would have served this man. Don't forget, in the UK, or I would say in the UK 400 years ago, we were still property. So, it's not that long really since we've experienced this freedom where we can choose things, but I think a lot of that history still stays with us. But it would never enter my head to test for turn on, to know what it was. Sex was meant to come in my direction. It was something that I was supposed to allow, and that hopefully, according to my education, that it wouldn't last long, won't take long, it'd just be very quick. And yeah, it's just like you just wind up realizing you know nothing. And then I think from the perspective of men, they didn't want to hurt us. So having sex might hurt us. So they want to be more and more gentle. And then you wind up not having that much fun because somebody won't get hold of you and won't fully enjoy you. And then you go, well, let's just have a curry and buy a movie and just watch TV. Because we just don't know how to say, do you know what? That's not working for me. Let's try something else. Let's talk about it. Let's see what would work for us. I had no tools for that.
Yeah, I don't think that we would, like a lot of people, know the something else to even suggest to
No,
try.
no.
So my blood is like not my like insides are turning and my blood's like curdling just listening to this reality that you're painting, that is the reality for, I imagine, a lot of people watching this and most of society.
So if I can
And
give you a personal share, if I may,
mm-hmm.
I didn't masturbate till I was 52. So I knew nothing of my own body. Nothing.
Mm.
That was
I can
that was a change.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And that's the point exactly, is many people know that they want something different, but they don't know the smorgasbord of options.
No.
And I resonate with that so much, Vivien. I don't know if I ever discovered self-pleasure or masturbation as a child because I don't
No,
remember. And
no.
so what just happened for me hearing you say that is something that I want for everyone who listens to this and everyone in the world, which is I have felt ashamed for a long time in my life because I didn't masturbate and I didn't know how. And I had to depend on other people in order to experience the pleasure, my birthright of pleasure of my body. And it wasn't until I was 32. Did you say 52?
I did.
I think I was 32 that I found myself pursuing my sexual and erotic freedom once and for all. And I was in a women's group, and we were at a live event. There were like 300 of us or something, lying on the floor, being guided
Oh,
on how to touch ourselves by a tantric master practitioner, and then by a jade egg master practitioner.
wow.
And that is how I discovered self-pleasure. But my point right now is shame lives in silence and isolation and loneliness. And just hearing Vivien say that, even though it's been 5 years since I started healing that shame, I'm this much more or less embarrassed about it because there's another person on the planet who wasn't able to do that for themselves and didn't know how, and didn't wasn't a master at it. Because everybody in my head, everybody knows how to masturbate. I have friends who say, oh, I can get myself off in 30 seconds. And not only was I non-masturbatory, I was anorgasmic. So,
well, if your advice was 30 seconds, I'm not surprised.
This is what I'm saying. We set, so we get these expectations set. Thank you for recognizing that. Set by other people's experiences and things that we hear and come across and compare ourselves to it. And we're not a match. So then we feel shame and we isolate and get quiet because there's something wrong with us.
In my own marriage, I'm a reasonably intelligent woman. I thought to myself, well, I need to be more interesting. So I actually studied to be a coach that I could be more interesting to my husband sexually. I tried eating more and eating less, and I ranged about 40 pounds in weight. I either hid or got skinny, and then I found that other people found me attractive, which was shaming and nerve-wracking because, like, oh my God, that's not what I'm trying to do. I tried everything, and it was only when I finally admitted that, if I may, a very dear girlfriend had been shopping, and thank God for the girlfriends who are not repressed, came out and she bought a new toy, and she had this look on her face. She was so happy, and she held it up and she said, "You need one of these. Everybody in this room needs one of these." And I remember looking at her face thinking, I know that look. I know that look of pleasure. Jesus, I'm 50. Surely I can buy a toy now. 52 or whatever it was. And I bought myself a toy and then found Betty Dodson, How to Have a Clitoral Orgasm. Bless her socks. Oh my God, what a marvelous woman. And I did a little YouTube clip, and thought, okay. And I remember her saying, this can take 45 minutes. And I remember thinking, what? 45 minutes? Never mind. Lock the door. House is myself. Happy days. Happy days. Happy days. So.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. And Vivien just brought up a very, very helpful statistic or fact of life, that the way the vulva body is wired, the hormones, the biochemistry, we are wired to, on average, take, there's some different studies now, between 30 30 to 45 minutes to be in full arousal. That means fully engorged, fully lubricated, and like, it's kind of like when you warm up your car in the morning in the winter, and if you drive it right away, it's kind of like
and you can't fully see out of all the windows, and the seats aren't warm yet, and it's cold inside.
It's not fully humming and vibrating. That it might require 30 to 45 minutes. Now, there are vulva-bodied humans who are real quick. To be fully engorged, the colors of the vulva, all the structures change, and all the blood flow is there. And I love that Betty cued you in on, take your time. It's okay if you're not screaming like the women in porn within 3 minutes.
And I will say, from my own experience, if you line up my turn on and get it right, like, I go nuts in about 8 minutes. I didn't know that before, but it's like, I think.
Oh, that is a good perspective, because people aren't equipped with this information about arousal and how it's wired differently. So these studies are showing 30 to 45 minutes. And actually, I went from there's something wrong with me, I'm anorgasmic, to holy shit, am I a slut? Because I am so quickly turned on and engorged, and it's 8 minutes for me now and not taking forever. So it's interesting that I can experience shame for being, I loved how you said it, thank God for the girlfriends who are not repressed. I wrote it down. I'm going to quote you now on. It's like I'm on one side where I'm anorgasmic and I don't really know or understand pleasure, and there's something wrong with me. And then I've come to another side, and I'm sure there's a lot farther down the road of
we are so not done.
But that I experience slut shaming, and that there's something wrong with me for being for turn on and pleasure being so accessible to me now. It's just like, what the hell?
But we're not alone. The truth of the matter is, we are not alone. When we understand our bodies, when we understand the type of touch, the sound, the visuals, taste, smell, all those things that can connect us, that would be a very sensual approach to it. But if you discover that you like the sting of a smack or a paddle or all kinds of things, I mean, I have this giant feather. It's an ostrich feather. It's huge. I love that thing. I love that thing. I drag it all over my body and I lie there all by myself. It's just a fabulous experience. But I didn't know that. I didn't even know I could look for that.
So that's a beautiful picture. So for those of you who are listening, who are unsatisfied and unfulfilled in sexless relationships with others and with yourself, open your world. Like Vivien just said, an ostrich feather, or you don't even have to be that fancy, just something soft. Drag it across your body without expectation. Return to being 8 years old, 14 years old
and
again.
Explore.
And that was the key. That was the key that changed my self-pleasure practice, was pretending like I didn't know how it's supposed to go. Pretending that I wasn't told all of the things that happen when you self-pleasure, and how your body responds and how it should look and work. And once I let all of that go, I was able to be present with what is in each unique moment and each unique session. I was in the shower the other day, and I went from crying and screaming to laughing hysterically, because I allowed what was present for me in my self-pleasure to just come through and burst forth, because I I don't subscribe anymore to how it's supposed to look and
No,
how it's supposed to go.
no.
And it is beautiful, and I want that for everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
And this is how one little picture of how we heal sexless relationships. And I think the most important sexless relationship to look at is the one with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like Vivien pointed to, a lot of people see sex as, we have a question coming in, I see it, we'll get back to you. Sex as penis and vagina. So what do you see masturbation and self-pleasure? What is your definition? And how does that limit your experience? And I learned this first from Saida Desolé. She's an amazing woman who teaches Jade Egg Mastery and was a direct student to Montauk Chia. And her first step was asking, what is your definition of orgasm?
Yeah.
What is your definition of pleasure? Because our definitions limit our experience.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, yes.
I see Ann Moore and Connie are on here, and they're both somatic sexologists, and I'm curious if you have time, ladies, to chime in about those studies of 30 to 45 minutes for full arousal for a vulva-bodied person, because with hands-in and hands-on practice, you might have insight as what that average is when someone's actual body is being addressed and attuned to, rather than touched and stroked and given the alphabet on the clit and all the things that Cosmo magazine and whatever men's magazines are called tell them to do to those vulvas. So I'm curious to hear from you ladies if you have a theory or proof of how many minutes when a vulva body is addressed as her body, not a cookie cutter approach to sex or pleasure.
So if I may, whilst they're doing that for us, Anne brought something up the other day, which was she'd picked up a magazine and the woman was not experiencing orgasm. Now, I'm afraid to say I don't know if she was young or old or she'd ever had an orgasm, whether that was for her alone or with a partner. But the response was, happens, bad luck. You know, women sometimes don't. She'd gone to potentially to a place of authority and she didn't get any options. If she'd sat with you and I, and this is why we're here, is there are a million things to look at: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Is there any trauma in the background? Does she know how to touch herself? Is she willing to touch herself? Is her body still on a bed with a vibrator, just physically trying to make the orgasm happen? Who knows what she's trying? But I would want her to have many, many options to look at. For example, Connie and Anne. An experience with a sexological body worker could be enormously helpful to someone like that. Actually speaking to people who are not ashamed about sex and sexuality is enormously comforting and so freeing.
Yes, and what pictures does she have in her head about how it's supposed to look when she is self-pleasuring? It's just like, oh my God, that fucking pisses me off, Vivien. Because that's what happened to me for years at my gynecologist, various gynecologists. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm experiencing orgasm or not. Oh, that's so common. That's a thing that that's a fact of life for women. Have you tried lube? Are you lubricated enough? Have you tried lube? And it's like, yes, my body is fucking dripping wet, but I still can't feel anything. I'm physiologically responding. What is wrong? You know, you just might be wired that way.
And
bullshit.
And it's not just women. I spoke with a man the other day I used to be a bit cautious about how I say this, who was self-pleasuring for many hours. And he was very disappointed that the erection was not sustained through the full period of time. And I was able to say to him, if you think that you need to keep an erection like a porn star, then you probably need about 3 Viagra, and you probably getting on ready for a milkshake or something about now, because you have had no break. You haven't been kind to yourself. And what I could experience with this man was that his relationship with his own physical penis was that it was meant to orgasm. And he was mad at it. He was mad at his penis. And it was going, not playing, because he was in his head, not in his body. And where was his turn on? So
yeah. See that? Yeah. Oh my God. So, point being, people, there is so much more to sex, pleasure, intimacy, orgasm than what your current definition is. Even for Vivien, even for me, even for all the sex coaches across the land.
absolutely.
There is more than we even realize. And Vivien and I got to experience that in September at an amazing Advanced Sex Skills and Erotic Secrets retreat, where we expanded our definition and our potential for pleasure. So I want to acknowledge Connie for answering us. She said there's so many things to look at. Also, tracking the nervous system is very important, which, Viv, you kind of talked about is, with emotions, and I would bring in the energetics. Connie's getting ready for a client, so she's only able to listen. Okay, thanks, Connie, for your input. And then we have David here, and he is asking, do you have any advice for single guys on how to meet women? Such a big question. Do you have, we can start to address that, but David, do you have, like, can you zero in on, I struggle because when I try to meet women, this is what happens? Because then we can be more potent with you when we zero in on the issues, the specific issues that you want to address. And if you don't want to address it here, you can private message either Vivien or myself, and we can move further with you. But in general, my first advice as an unabashed trailblazer of unabashed self-expression is be yourself. Because if you're going to meet any woman who's interested in a facade of who you are, you're setting yourself up for failure. So know who you are, know what you want, be unabashed and brave and courageous to express those things, and be ready for the rejection and non-matches that you come to as you do that, because there will be a lot of them, but then there will be the ones that are a match. And those are the only ones that are worth associating with anyway, in the realms of if your long game is to meet someone that you can be with for a very long time. Now, if you're just going out, if your question is, do you have any advice for single guys on how to meet women for a one night stand or for a fling that lasts a few weeks, my answer is totally different. So that's why I'm asking for specificity. And there's no shame at all, David, in wanting to meet women for a fling at all. There are women who want to meet men for a fling too. So that's not a shameful thing to be wanting to find out about. So Viv, I'm curious. The question is, do you have any advice for single guys on how to meet women?
All of what you said. Put your phone away and be present. Be present. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with silence. You don't have to fill every waking moment with finding something to say. Some of them, my dearest friends, I can just hang about with in total silence, but I just love their presence. And I think you can feel into your body and find out whether you feel good in someone's presence. And then talk about what you want to talk about, not what you think you should talk about. Because if someone starts talking about, I mean, our big subject at the moment is Brexit. and they shrivel up, curl and die, and you go, but this is important to me and I want to talk to this, then move on and find someone who wants to talk about the same stuff as you.
Right,
Don't try and
right. And
modify.
that circles back to something that you said earlier, and I don't remember what it was. Oh, when you were talking, I asked you why is it that we grow up so ashamed about sexuality? And one of the things you said is because we're not allowed to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not, so it's one of those things where you're not allowed to talk about it before 18, but then once you're an adult, like, you have free reign, but we still carry forth that stick of, I can't talk about it. And actually, one of the meetups that I've started is called Freaky Fridays. And there's a Tuesday version called Let's Talk About It Tuesday. And it's a place where people can come to talk about all of the things we're told we're not supposed to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, it looks very much like this discussion Viv and I have had today on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I hope Facebook isn't an asshole and deletes it or mutes it or something
Oh,
because it's
sorry.
too racy.
Yeah.
Because that's bullshit. I don't think it will happen, but just, it's a fact of life that we are censored. We are censored by a lot of external forces. And are you subscribing to that censorship inside of yourself because it's true for you that you don't think we should talk about this stuff, or because you're out of fear or shame or robotic conditioning to follow social norms? And that's my invitation, is for you to look at why is it that you're not talking about the things that would really behoove you and improve your life to communicate about.
So, if I may, sure. One of the things that I'm noticing that I feel quite upset about is women of my age and slightly younger who have children who have also not mentioned any form of masturbation, no talking about sex. All the rules for those children don't seem to be changing, because there's a pattern of not talking about sex. There's a pattern of believing that the school will take care of it. There's a pattern of believing that they'll figure it out on their own, which means, unfortunately, they're not being set up for success. So when this lovely David is talking about having a conversation with somebody he wants to meet, where because he's here, may be willing to say, when we have sex, I'd like to tell you this is my blueprint, this is how my erotic stack is, and give them all of that information and help them experience that and feel it, is that they may well also not be able to hear it because the shame is installed. So be kind to those people, because nobody wants to be like that. So I think it would be wrong to say we're the only people who can help. I think a good woman or a good man speaking to someone they want to have sex with can start around saying, I have certain things that I like. Are you okay with talking about that? I want to talk about my safety. I need to talk about my health. Sexual health is really important these days. Oh, I feel a bit sad because I get upset about the kids because they're just like, they're 13. They don't know. They may already feel wrong about masturbating, or they may not know that they're okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Vivien. I really appreciate your time today and all of your insights. And that is a project that I have been talking to local mothers about, because I've actually had some mothers come to me and say, can you teach my children this, my teens? And the idea I have in my head is of teaching them alternatives to penis and vagina.
Yeah.
And expanding their perception and definition beyond pornography. Yeah. Because 80% or 85% of our less than 8 adolescents are getting their sex education from pornography.
Do you know what I heard the other day?
What did
You're
you
going
hear?
to love this.
Am I, or am I going to hate
Oh,
it?
you're going to hate it. No means yes, and yes means anal. From a teenager.
What?
No means yes.
Oh,
Yes means anal.
essentially, if she says no to vaginal, go for anal.
No, so one of my big issues that I think may be the same in the United States as here is honoring a no. The no's don't work. So a simple one would be like, do you want dessert? No, I'm not going to have a dessert. Are you sure? No, I don't want a dessert. Oh, go on, you'll only want some of mine. No, I don't want a dessert. I'm trying not to eat. That's like, well, I'm going to get one for you anyway. That kind of behavior leaks into our sex life. Do you want to cuddle? No. Basically, because do you want to cuddle is not a turn on. So, no. Yeah, you do. Oh, you're just being difficult. No, so no, really, I just don't want to. I don't feel like it. You need to just deal with it. There's a lot of bad pressure around a no. There's a lot of bullying around a no. And I would like to see a no really respected. And I think we need to teach about no. And the wonderful Brené Brown talks about trust and braving, her wonderful podcast that she did with Oprah Winfrey on the Soul Sisters about the anatomy of trust and how if we actually learn to break that down, that from a very young age, because we could teach this to teenagers, because what we know, we got to be really careful how we teach what we teach to people who are not old enough to hear it, because otherwise we're sort of asymptotic to the sex industry. Is it how we can honor ourselves so that we understand what a boundary is, we understand what being reliable means, we understand what holding someone accountable means, and that if you let me down and I hold you accountable, our friendship increases and is improved by that level of communication. Sorry, I wandered off there. I just get quite upset about that subject. But the teenager thing and the language that way is they think it's funny. And then girls think they're supposed to say yes. So there's a huge statistic now of girls who would rather give a blowjob in a car park than actually have sex, so they don't get pregnant or get into trouble. So no.
And so that they remain pleasing.
Exactly. But no pleasure for them. Yeah.
To the penis body person. Yeah. So we're getting on a tangent.
Sorry.
And I'm getting close to needing to close this out.
Okay.
The point here for me right now is you are a wealth of knowledge. I am a wealth of knowledge. We both are a wealth of experience. And those of you who are watching, your world could be so much grander and bigger and amazing. And there are a lot of resources for you. And Vivien and I are two of them.
And we love our work.
Who do you like to work with, and what problems do you like to solve in a succinct way?
I love working with couples who've been sexless and got lost in their relationship, where they want to change that, they just don't know how. I love to work with that. And I'm also very happy to work with, there are a lot of coaches who help just women. I am very happy to support the male side when they find themselves in this situation and they want to know how they could change, and their partners will not join because they're too ashamed to talk about the sex. So I'd like to give them a head start so that we can get them to a place where they can have a conversation with their partner that doesn't blow them up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Vivien. And if you have been interested in my work or are interested now, and feel like you need to continue to feel me out, because working on something so intimate requires a lot of trust. In my journey of 8 years now of really intentionally pursuing my erotic liberation and freedom, have had mentors that I vibed with and trusted, and others that I did not. So it's really important that you feel resonance with who you choose to work with. So if you want to keep checking me out, I do these videos. I have events here in Reno, and I'll be traveling around the US offering events through the end of the year. So you can DM me your email address and I'll keep you apprised of what's available for you. And if you feel ready, if you feel the call and your pain is so big that you're done and now's the time to make a change and make a move, I am here to support you in your communication, in sex and intimacy, and in feeling heard and understood, and confident and courageous to have hard conversations and address the conflict that's inside of you and outside of you in your relationships. I would love to support you. And because you've given your time to listen to this amazing interaction and conversation with Vivien and I want to offer you a complimentary discovery session. It's called a self-expression discovery session. And this is a place, a safe space for you to get to see where you're at in life and what you want that's missing, and how I might be the person to support you to get there. And I would love to offer that to you complimentary for having listened to this video. It's typically $333. But if you want that complimentary session, and it's only for you if you're ready to take action and receive support. It's not for you if you want to continue down this road of curiosity and disappointment. So if you're ready to take action, send me a private message that says, I'm ready, #no more shame. When you say I'm ready, #no more shame, I know that that complimentary session is for you. And I will give it to the first 3 people who send me a message from this video. And I'll get back to you on how to schedule, and we'll be on our way. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening today. And may you expand your world and discover yourself, which, Vivien, you made such a poignant observation that in isolation and loneliness, we're denying ourselves, we're repressing ourselves. So may you all discover yourselves and never and reduce the frequency of loneliness in your life, and increase the frequency of pleasure and turn on. And
Thank you, Monica. Jayne, it was a pleasure to be here with you.
It was such a pleasure to be here with you. And if Viv and I are not the fit for you,
no,
we have connections to over 100 sex coaches who are just as amazing as you have experienced here. And we want the world to be a better place, and we're doing it on the foundation of getting in touch with your turn on, your arousal, and really discovering who you truly are. Thank you for listening today. We love you. We wish you the best, and we will be in touch, or you'll be in touch with us soon. Thanks, Viv.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Love to you from across the Atlantic.
See you on Friday.
See you on Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye.